In the winter of 1864, over 10,000 human beings, men, women, children, and elders, were forced at gunpoint to walk 450 miles across the frozen desert of New Mexico. They called it the Long Walk, but the Navajo people, the Dinétah, they called it something else, Hueldi, the place of suffering. By the time it was over, hundreds would be dead. Thousands more would never see their homeland again, and an entire civilization would be brought to its knees. This is the story of one of America's darkest chapters, a story of genocide, survival, and a people's unbreakable will to return home. To understand what was taken, you must first understand what they had. The Navajo Nation, the Dinétah, the people. For centuries they thrived in the high desert of the American Southwest. Between four sacred mountains, they built a civilization. They were shepherds, farmers, weavers, silversmiths. Their language was beautiful. Their culture was rich. Their connection to the land was sacred.
Dinétah, the Navajo homeland. It wasn't just where they lived. It was who they were. By the 1860s, the Navajo population had grown to nearly 15,000 people. They controlled over 25 million acres of land. They had survived Spanish colonization, Mexican rule, and they had resisted American expansion. But resistance comes with a price, and the United States Army was about to collect. His name was Colonel Christopher "Kit" Carson, a frontier legend, a folk hero to white Americans. But to the Navajo, he would become the architect of their destruction. Military orders, maps. In 1863, Carson received direct orders from General James Carleton, commander of the Department of New Mexico. Quote, "All Navajo Indians must remove to the Bosque Redondo reservation. Those who refuse will be treated as hostile and dealt with accordingly." End quote. Dealt with accordingly. Burning fields, destroyed hogans. Carson's strategy was simple and brutal. Total war. Scorched earth. Soldiers destroying crops, killing livestock. His troops swept through Navajo territory like a plague. They burned the cornfields, they destroyed the orchards, they slaughtered the sheep and horses. They cut down the peach trees, over 3,000 of them in Canyon de Chelly alone. They didn't just attack warriors, they attacked survival itself. Families fleeing into the mountains. The message was clear: surrender or starve. By January 1864, thousands of Navajo had no choice. Facing freezing temperatures, no food, and relentless military pursuit, they surrendered. Long lines of people gathering. And that's when the nightmare truly began. March 1864, Fort Canby, New Mexico. The first group assembled, 2,400 Navajo people, mostly women, children, and elders. The warriors who had fought, many were already dead. They were given almost nothing for the journey. No wagons, no food supplies, no winter clothing, just the order to walk. 450 miles, to a place they'd never seen. A place the Army called Bosque Redondo. The route cut through some of the harshest terrain in North America, across frozen rivers, through snowstorms, over mountains, through desert, in the middle of winter. People walking,
children being carried. They walked 15 to 20 miles every single day. The old couldn't keep up. The sick collapsed. Pregnant women went into labor on the side of the road. And the soldiers, they showed no mercy. If you fell behind, you were shot. If you tried to help someone, you were beaten. If you stopped to bury your dead, you were forced to leave them for the wolves. This was the first march, but it wouldn't be the last. Between 1864 and 1866, there would be 53 separate forced marches. Over 10,000 Navajo people would walk this trail of tears. Not all of them would make it. The accounts of what happened on these marches are almost too horrific to speak, but they must be spoken. Navajo elders who survived passed down the stories, generation after generation, so the world would never forget. One woman remembered, "My grandmother was on that walk. She was just a young girl. She watched her baby brother die in her mother's arms. They couldn't stop. They couldn't bury him. They had to leave him by the side of the road. At the Rio Grande crossing, the water was freezing. People had to wade through chest-deep currents. Children drowned. The elderly succumbed to hypothermia. But the soldiers kept pushing them forward. At night, they were given minimal rations, a handful of flour, maybe some coffee, never enough. Starvation became constant. Disease spread like wildfire. Dysentery, pneumonia, smallpox. And then there were the raiders. Mexican and Anglo slave traders followed the columns. When the soldiers weren't looking, or sometimes when they were, they would snatch children and young women. Hundreds disappeared this way, sold into slavery, and the army did nothing. By the end of each march, the trail was littered with bodies. Conservative estimates say 200 died on the journey, but many historians believe the real number was much, much higher. But for those who survived the walk, the suffering was far from over. Because Bosque Redondo was hell on earth. Imagine being promised a new home and arriving at this. Barren landscape, alkali soil. Bosque Redondo, near Fort Sumner, New Mexico. 40 square miles of absolutely nothing. No trees, no shelter, no clean water. The soil was alkaline, poisonous, nothing would grow. Crude shelters, overcrowded conditions. 10,000 Navajo people were crammed into this wasteland, along with 500 Mescalero Apache, their traditional enemies, forced to live together in a space meant for maybe 2,000. It was a concentration camp in everything but name. Water sources, sick people. The water from the Pecos River was brackish, contaminated. It made people violently ill. Dysentery killed dozens every month. Failed crops, barren fields. General Carleton's grand plan was to turn the Navajo into Christian farmers. He gave them seeds. He ordered them to plant. But the land was cursed. Crops failed year after year. Floods destroyed what little did grow. Army cutworms devoured the rest. The people were starving. Ration lines, inadequate food. Army rations were supposed to feed them, but they were always insufficient, often rotten, distributed irregularly. Flour filled with weevils, bacon crawling with maggots, coffee grounds that had already been used. Graves, mourning scenes. Over the next 4 years, more than 3,000 Navajo would die at Bosque Redondo. From disease, from starvation, from exposure, from heartbreak. Every single day they looked west, toward the mountains, toward home.
400 miles away. It might as well have been on another planet, because they were prisoners, and escape was punishable by death. But here's what the army didn't understand. You can imprison a people, you can starve them, you can try to break their culture, but you cannot destroy their spirit. In the shadows of Bosque Redondo, the Navajo resisted. They held ceremonies in secret. They taught their children the old songs, the old stories. They wove traditional patterns. They spoke their language, even though it was forbidden. And their leaders began to fight back. Barboncito, Manuelito, Ganado Mucho, the great Navajo headmen. They petitioned, they negotiated, they refused to let their people be forgotten. Year after year they went to the army, to the government officials. They told them the truth. Quote from Barboncito, 1868, "I hope to God you will not ask me to go to any other country except my own. We do not want to go to the right or left, but straight back to our own country." And slowly, the truth began to reach Washington. Reports came back from agents, from military inspectors, even from army officers who were horrified by what they saw. Failed farm fields, cost reports. Bosque Redondo wasn't just immoral, it was a complete failure. It was costing the government $1.5 million per year, over $30 million in today's money, to keep a people imprisoned, starving, dying.
The experiment had failed. And in 1868, something extraordinary happened. The United States government admitted it was wrong. June 1st, 1868, Fort Sumner, New Mexico. General William Tecumseh Sherman himself came to negotiate, the same Sherman who had burned his way through Georgia during the Civil War. Navajo leaders and Sherman meeting. He met with Barboncito and the other Navajo leaders, and he asked them a simple question. "What do you want?" Barboncito stood up, and he spoke words that would echo through history. "I hope to God you will not ask me to go to any other country except my own. It is the most beautiful country in the world. Our grandfathers died there, and their graves are there. I want to go back." On that day, the Treaty of 1868 was signed. It wasn't perfect. The Navajo were only given back 3.5 million acres, a fraction of their original homeland, but it was something they thought they'd never see again. The right to go home. June 18th, 1868, the day of departure. Over 7,000 Navajo gathered, those who had survived the 4 years of hell. They were given some sheep, some seeds, and wagons for those too weak to walk. And then they began the journey back. The long walk home, hopeful, emotional. Voice becomes emotional, almost breaking. It took them weeks, following the same brutal trail they had walked 4 years earlier, past the same places where they had buried their loved ones. But this time, they were walking toward the sacred mountains. They were walking home. When they saw the peaks of Mount Taylor on the horizon, people fell to their knees and wept. They had survived. But returning home didn't mean the suffering was over. Ruins of hogans, destroyed orchards. Everything had been destroyed. The peach orchards were gone. The cornfields were barren. Their homes were ruins. They had to rebuild from nothing. And they did. Through sheer determination and ancestral knowledge, the Navajo people began to rebuild their nation. But the scars would never fully heal. Generational trauma imagery. Of the 10,000 who were forced to walk, at least 3,000 never made it home.
Some died on the Long Walk. Thousands more died at Bosque Redondo. Others were sold into slavery, never to be seen again. Modern Navajo Nation. Today, the Navajo Nation is the largest Native American reservation in the United States. Over 27,000 square miles, 300,000 enrolled members. They have survived. They have persevered. Their language is still spoken. Their culture is still alive. But they have never forgotten. And they never will. So why does this story matter? Why tell it now? Because the Long Walk wasn't an isolated incident.
It was part of a systematic campaign. The Trail of Tears, the Sand Creek Massacre, Wounded Knee, the forced removal of Native children to boarding schools. For over a century, the United States government pursued a policy of cultural genocide against Indigenous peoples. And most Americans have never heard these stories. They're not taught in schools. They're footnotes in history books. They're erased from the national narrative. But the Navajo people remember, and they're still fighting for justice, fighting for water rights, for land protection, for the preservation of sacred sites, against uranium mining on their land, against the desecration of their culture. The Long Walk may have ended in 1868, but its consequences echo into today. The Navajo Nation has a poverty rate of nearly 40%. Life expectancy is significantly lower than the national average. Access to clean water, electricity, and health care is still limited in many areas. These aren't ancient injustices. They're ongoing. But there is also hope. A new generation of Navajo youth are reclaiming their language, revitalizing their traditions, telling their stories. And stories like the Long Walk are finally being heard. The Long Walk was not a march. It was an attempted genocide. It was ethnic cleansing. It was a crime against humanity. And every single person who died deserves to be remembered. Their names may be lost to history, but their story lives on. In every Navajo child who speaks their language, in every weaver who creates the traditional patterns, in every ceremony that honors the old ways, they survived, and they are still here.
This is American history, not a footnote, not a side story. Pause 1 second. This is our history. Pause 2 seconds. And we must never forget. Final landscape fade to black. Final words slow, deliberate. The Navajo Long Walk. 10,000 people. 450 miles. 4 years of suffering. Pause 3 seconds. And one unbreakable spirit. 5 seconds of silence. End card with resources. Subscribe for more untold stories. Soft, respectful outro music. If the story moved you, share it, because these stories must be told. Subscribe for more untold histories. And remember, the truth is always worth fighting for. 30:00 end.